It's not even a real science. Physically, he was a regimented, imposing figure with long limbs and muscled arms, which he liked to cross over his chest. I was convinced that he had been placed on this earth to intimidate the hell out of me. I did everything I could to avoid crossing his path. Yet there he was, sitting in a cloud of my Marlboro Light smoke, with outstretched fingers. "Well?" Dr. Nunez smiled. Dr. Nunez knew how to smile? Shocked, I handed him my cigarette and watched as he took it between his fingers and stared expectantly at the wisp of smoke curling up from around his knees. He lifted the cigarette, smiled at me once more, and stubbed it out in the nearby ashtray. "You don't need that shit." He stood up and extended his hand. "Come on, let's go get some coffee." I was infuriated. That was my last smoke, I wanted to yell. Instead, I sat dumbfounded in the shade cast by Dr. Nunez's broad shoulders, too stunned by his bold gesture to say anything. "I said," Dr. Nunez sighed with obvious irritation, "let's go get some coffee." I quickly scrambled to my feet. Okay?" Over Americanos, Dr. Nunez asked a lot of questions. Why do you smoke? If smoking makes you less stressed, what's making you so stressed in the first place? He listened to my answers intently, interjecting an occasional nod and a His demeanor was disarming, and I felt it drawing me in. Despite knowing better, I found myself committing the incredibly unprofessional crime of unloading all my personal problems on my boss. During a pause in the conversation, I felt a sudden wave of regret. What was I thinking, spilling all this, and to Dr. Nunez of all people? But, to my surprise, he didn't lecture me. Instead, he tipped his head thoughtfully, pursed his lips, and said matter-of-factly, "You should come swimming with me during lunch tomorrow." I laughed out loud. I couldn't help it. "Listen, sir," I said once I'd composed myself, "that's very nice, but I'm not one of those people." Those people? Crazy people. Health nuts. I blurted out before realizing I had most likely offended the man who signed my paycheck. "Come on," he scoffed. "Swimming is fun. But don't take my word for it. You should try it for yourself." When I hesitated, he added, "If nothing else, you'll get a good suntan out of it." Did I mention that sunbathing was one of my vices, too? The next day, as planned, Dr. Nunez showed up at my office door at 11:45 on the dot. Slung over his shoulder was a bag of kickboards and swim paddles. "You ready?" I nodded meekly, hoping I was feigning enthusiasm convincingly. He smiled and nodded toward the exit. "Let's go." I went swimming that day. And the next. And the next. At first, it was out of fear of offending my boss, but soon I found myself starting to look forward to it. I wasn't fast, but I was capable, and I liked spending an hour each day in the Arizona sunshine. In between laps, Dr. Nunez became Carlos, and Carlos became my friend. It didn't make sense. An athletic, accomplished guy like him had no reason to take an interest in a slow, chubby kid who made poor choices. Still, I decided not to question it. Over the span of our 10-year friendship, my unhealthy vices disappeared one by one. Cigarettes were eventually replaced with running. Stress was hammered out on the pedals of a bike, and big gulps of Diet Dr. Pepper and tequila were replaced with post-ride Americanos with my new mentor. I didn't realize it at the time, but that Marlboro Light break outside my office building essentially upended my life, changing it forever. I could easily tell you, in boring detail and with tedious data sets, all about how I became one of those people I had long derided. I could tell you what workouts I did to set a personal best time in the marathon or finish my first Ironman. I could suggest what you should eat or drink or wear. But that's not